Background music for this podcast is used with permission from the Hustle Cat soundtrack. If you like it, please check out at SAMMNEILAND or that same name at .bandcamp.com. You can see in the description below. Thank you. Hey everybody, welcome back to Visual Novel Book Club. I'm your pal slowbeef. With me is, of course, my good friend Turbo C.
Hello.
Devious Vacuum.
Hello.
Pulla Hoko.
This route sucks.
Jim.
Pop, 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 pop.
Pop, 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 pop,
We were
pop.
testing pop. We were testing pop filters before the recording started.
It's fun to say.
Well, this is it, huh? Season 3 finale.
We sure did it.
Yay, Hustle Cat, I guess. No?
Or something.
I was fine with it.
For the most part, yeah.
As a whole, I think we can. Yeah, I mean, I liked it as a whole, but we can get into that.
I think I liked the ending more than anyone else here.
Well, let's talk about that. How does the Graves route wrap up? DVAC, take it away.
All right.
Unless anyone else wants it.
At the end of the last episode, session, whatever, therapy. At the end of the last therapy session for all of us and you, Avery went to sleep on Graves' fold-out couch because Graves was worried that, and Avery was also worried that Nacht was going to attack them around their apartment. And the next morning, Avery wakes up and goes down to the kitchen to get coffee for breakfast, and Mason is there.
No.
And Avery is like, I'm crashing here on the couch bed for normal reasons.
Yeah, let's just paint that picture, shall we? We've got Avery just stumbling out of Graves' room in the morning in his pajamas, and Mason's there, and Mason does not give a fuck. She does not want to even touch this.
She checked out of this timeline.
Yeah. She's like, hey, I don't care. Do whatever.
I think she makes an embarrassed face, but she's just kind of like, whatever, yeah.
He's like, I don't really need this.
Yeah, which, I mean, that would be my reaction also. I don't need this in my life.
It's none of my business.
I got my own thing going on with Grandpa, so whatever.
Yeah, I got enough problems.
Plus, I'm dead.
So Avery went down to get coffee because, they didn't want to, run the coffee machine in Graves' apartment and I guess, wake him up or, something like that. And
no,
when
it was he looked at, they looked at the coffee machine and it's like, that coffee machine is intimidating. I don't think I can use it. I'll go downstairs and use the simple coffee machine.
Yeah. And so when Avery gets back, Graves is awake and making coffee. And Avery is like, well, I've gone and done it for no reason.
Which,
and now everyone thinks we slept with Graves.
I don't drink coffee, but how complicated can a coffee machine be?
So, wait, can I say something surprising? Because I'm in a shame diabetes right now.
Whoa.
The guy I do.
Whoa, from downtown?
Fucking, no, we've gone to hotel rooms. You know how they have the hotel coffee machine? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No idea how to use it.
What?
This generation, I swear.
Simplest one. This is the most simple coffee machine in the world is the hotel room one. It's got a packet. You put the packet on.
Nah, K-cups are a lot easier.
Okay, granted, K-cups, but no,
Boom,
yeah, but
got him! That's one win for this podcast.
Thank you for defending diabetes on this podcast.
Don't speak his name anymore. All right. No, I'm joking. No. But yeah, there's people. There are people who don't know how to do the whole coffee grinds filter water system.
But
which, I mean, if you mess it up, what's the worst that can happen? The coffee machine's not going to explode. You think you could
I don't know. I would believe that some coffee machines would explode. Are super fragile. I don't know. I can believe that if you're around coffee snobs all the days of your life, you'd be like, well, coffee must be super complicated when people are talking about the nose of it and things like that. I didn't even know it had an anatomy.
So let's just move past that. No, I don't know if I'm dating myself here, but yeah, I feel like the standard coffee pot might be a lost art. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they're one generation below doesn't know how to do that or something.
Slowbeef is older than Graves, so...
Wait, am I? How
yeah,
old is
you are.
Oh, God.
He is at the oldest 37.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Guess it's time for that midlife crisis.
Anyway.
Maybe instead of a cane, you can carry around a video game controller or something.
Maybe, yeah, no, that would be much... Why would I do that? What am I, Tim Buckley?
But it's got a sword in it,
It's got a sword, or knife.
Right.
It's like the Xbox Duke with a little knife inside.
Speaking of swords with knives with swords and canes, there was some really great dialogue that I loved this session, so let's get on with it.
Alright.
No more fucking around.
Okay. You got it, boss.
I'm in charge of this podcast now.
Hey.
You are.
So the I guess word travels around.
Don't call
it is
me boss, it's
implied
weird
that word travels around.
Oh yeah,
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry for the tension that introduced. It's Graves. Thanks for nothing, Graves. Sorry.
And Avery is still Avery's still staying at Graves' apartment, and after work is over, after a work day of everybody being like, about
everybody giving
Avery.
him side eyes, like everybody knows.
Yeah, because apparently Mason may not look like she talks, but she does talk.
Well, to be fair, Mason and Finley seem to be like kind of close, and I could see Mason telling Finley, and once Finley knows, everybody's gonna know.
I believe more that Avery is telling everyone with, like, their actions and, like, their body emotions. Like, no one actually knew until Avery came in and just sort of unintentionally was like, what's everyone talking about?
It's like, dude, you've been staring at Graves' door. Stop staring at Graves' door the entire day long.
But, like, all of them are, like, they don't want to ask. They don't want to talk about it. That seems
which is the good decision and right for them.
Like if they're gonna gossip about it, like why not ask? I don't know.
I think they'd be like, so like who's HR in this thing? Should we clear it with them?
Which one of us is HR? Yeah.
I gotta be honest with you, if I was in my early 20s or a late teenager too, and one of my other coworkers was dating my 37-year-old boss, I probably wouldn't say much. I'd just be like, ugh.
Also, we're all cats, so there are other things to worry about. No, I don't know. But what happens next? So everybody knows?
Reese comes up to the apartment after work, for, I guess, like, magic lessons or whatever, him being Graves' apprentice. But he just ends up talking to Avery, and, like, annoying us, basically. Like,
acting super jealous.
Yeah, like, you know, like...
Oh, yeah.
But in, like, because Graves is, like, Reese's uncle. And so he's, like, no, he likes me best. He likes me the best, and I'm Reese's apprentice, and it's a little bit of an awkward juxtaposition. And Reese also kind of, like... he like, kind of, I guess, knows about Nacht, but also kind of doesn't. Like, he doesn't know Nacht's name. Which why would he? Because he's never met him. And Graves can't say his name. And so, but he has an impression about what's going on, but he already knows like much less than Avery. We can tell from this scene because he's never actually interacted with any of the characters in this drama of Graves' life. And Reese, how I wrote it in my notes is, Reese is so annoying that Avery puts themselves in actual danger by going for a walk.
And the only thing maybe I'm picking up on this when it's not there, but I kind of get the impression that Reese has a crush on Graves. I thought that came up on a couple other routes. So it just kind of feels that way. Is it just me? I don't know.
I always read it as sort of like a father figure type thing, but
yeah, I mean, it's kind of difficult to tell. I think I think you could read it that way, or you could also just read it that he just really, really admires him because he's trying to live up to his father's expectations and all that stuff.
I kind of read it as a little bit of a jealousy angle, but not so much from a romantic interest, but more like, I'm supposed to be Graves' apprentice and really good at magic, and here is this person who's just suddenly there,
Yeah.
So, and I can kind of see where those paths, maybe align's not the right word, but like kind of seem like each other, Yep. I guess what I'm saying is I don't think that's a bad interpretation or whatever. I can totally see how you'd get there, even if I didn't see it myself.
Yeah, I think in one situation Reese wants to impress Graves, and on the other side Avery just wants to get into Graves' pants.
And there's that one route where Reese says, I want to kiss Graves, and just keeps saying that, and that's the dialogue box like 30 or 40 times, and you have to advance through it. I thought that was an odd thing for them to put in.
It also, like, Reese and Avery are the same age. So Reese having, like, childish affection for Graves, I think kind of... Like, it puts it in a weird light, because it's like, oh, here's, like, Reese, who's, like, so, like, oh, I just want to impress Graves, but, like, somehow Avery, who is the exact same age and in many ways might have even less life experience, is supposed to have a more mature feelings for this man?
Yeah.
How about that?
So Avery's walking around, and I mean, this whole area has got to be like really small because Avery immediately runs into Graves. There's only like 3 screens, so walking around these 3 screens, Avery runs into Graves, statistically, and I don't remember what Graves is doing. I think he's just patrolling.
I don't know. I don't think they're really giving.
Is Graves?
I don't think they give a really good reason.
He's just there. He's there.
Is Graves? He's
alley.
Not doing the warding. He's not. Oh, the alley. That's right. Never mind.
Yeah, like I think Graves shows up because Avery went for a walk, and Graves is like, "Hey, you can't be outside like this."
And Graves mentions that Graves describes Nacht as being audacious, and Avery is like, "I can be audacious. Let's have dinner again." And then I died. I don't remember what happened after that because my spirit left my body.
I think I actually said the words, "I hate you, Avery."
Oh,
it's like tragic. Yeah. Avery says, "Let's order pizza," and Graves agrees, even though canonically we already know that Graves hates pizza.
No, but his love
That's
for
just how much he
Avery
cares.
is just that strong. That he would eat shitty pizza.
It's how much he cares about being a predator. Boom.
God.
Oh, boy.
And Graves is like, "Thank you for taking me to dinner." Ugh, bleh. Murder me.
Man.
And they eat a pizza together and try to talk about magic some more, but again it is difficult because Graves can't say any of the words. I'm a little frustrated by how difficult this is for Avery. Like, it's like, you get it, right? He's cursed so he can't say the words. Like, stop being frustrated. Like, this is an actual problem.
He has an impediment.
There's so many ways, though, because, like, is he forbidden from, like, writing them down, or, like, Avery writes them down on cards, and then he points to them when he wants to say them? Like,
I feel like he must be in order for this to be, like, a proper magic spell.
But also, can't, like, you just finish his sentences? Like, he makes it pretty obvious in many things where he gets to the M.A. Like, you could just be like, "Oh, yeah, magic, I gotcha."
It's goofy.
Matrimony?
I think it's implied that physically hurts him when he accidentally stumbles. Like, he's about to say magic, and then, he coughs.
Mm-hmm. So we know that Mochi has obviously been staying here, and Mochi and Dracula have become friends. And there's a point where Avery looks over and sees that Dracula is grooming Mochi, which is a hell of a choice of words, my friends. That's all I have to say about that. Mm-hmm. Then they talk about Graves' origin story.
No, because it's even better. It goes directly from the grooming to Graves showing pictures of him from high school, which is like the creepiest way of being like, look, I was once young.
Look how old I am.
He looks cute.
Yeah, no, he does. He looks adorable.
Yeah.
Also, the photo of Graves from when he was a child looks like it is 100 years old.
Yeah, it's all in like sepia tone and shit. Like
he's a chimney sweep.
And it's like just from the 80s. Like, come on.
Yeah, that would have been different. If it was like from the 80s, he should have had like the 80s clothes with like the big neon hoodies and backwards caps and shit.
The 80s were Back to the Future, come on.
Or just like a shitty Polaroid, right? Like, come on. Give me something. Anyway. Graves shows his 100-year-old sepia-toned childhood photo of him and his cats.
His therapy cats.
Yes, the cat that Graves can turn into is Midnight, who was his first cat.
Well, it's based off of Midnight.
Based off of Midnight.
I met him in the debtor's prison.
And Avery accuses Graves of wearing contacts, which, I mean, like, okay, sure. And he's like, no, it happened to him when he got his cat magic. Like, that's when his eyes changed color. I mean, okay. I mean, I just figured he changed them because of magic and that he missed his cat, you know? But that's also fine.
It might be like a subconscious thing. Like, he liked his cat, and then he found out that he has cat magic, and his cat looked like that, so now he looks like that.
Yeah, and it's just an excuse for him to put his face really close to Avery, so Avery can see there's no contact there, and Avery fucking loses their mind. And then they go back to the fucking photo album, like,
Avery could feel Graves' breath on him.
Ugh. Get away from me. But yeah, Graves' tragic backstory is that those cats were therapy cats, and he had trouble speaking, I guess, as a child, and he would read to the cats as part of his therapy.
Does that make sense?
It does. It's literally a thing they do, yeah.
It is.
Yeah, with like kids that are like on the spectrum or who have difficulty in identifying with people, they just have them read stories to dogs or cats.
Huh.
So that was, and that's nice. That's sweet. It's a weird. It's a weird feel. It's a weird feeling.
It's a weird.
This is not real.
It's weird. This story is weird.
I want to like a grave, but Avery's 19. It's my head spins.
Oh, D-Vac, you hurt me with that impression. That was terrible.
Jesus, is Charles Martinet guesting on this podcast?
Of all the ones, of all the guests, of all the times, it had to be on this episode. It's a real shame.
I heard it only cost $50.
Sorry, Charlie.
Oh.
So,
like he's listening.
Big fan.
Say my name 3 more times.
I like it, the visual novel book club.
He's expanding his horizons. So they're looking at this photo album. Avery leans their head against Graves' shoulder while looking at the photo album, and Graves, like, stiffens a little bit and clears his throat. This is murder. I'm actually being killed. Please stop being attracted to a 19-year-old kid. Graves, why? I'm just reading my notes.
I've got in my notes, Avery, you imbecile, you fool, you absolute maroon.
And then Graves leaves. Graves leaves, and as he's leaving, Avery sees him pull out a phone and call someone and talk to them in a stern whisper. Avery's like, is he talking to Nacht? Why would you have your nemesis's number on your phone?
Also, why did you immediately go to that conclusion? Like, I don't see why...
You can't say his name, but you can call him?
You know, relationships are complicated.
Hey, you.
Hey, mister.
Maybe he can say the word when talking to Nacht, but not when talking to anyone else.
Sure.
I don't know.
I mean, I feel like this magic is like a big legal contract. Like, you cannot say the actual phrase unless you're talking to the party of the first part.
Like Pulahoka, like you pointed out earlier when we were talking about this, magic is a lot like a divorce.
Yeah. I mean, I'll get back to this later, but... Yeah, I'll get back to that.
Sorry, did we already see Nacht? This...
The first time
we're
we
about
saw...
to.
Well, I thought we saw Nacht at our apartment.
But that was last episode.
Okay.
Yeah, last episode.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we have seen Nacht already in this round.
Sorry, I just forgot which part the phone call was.
So Avery then goes outside. Everything kind of falls apart at this point, honestly. Avery goes outside and Graves and Nacht are having a confrontation. Honestly, like, I do kind of love that Graves still has Nacht's number. Like, I kind of actually love these messy people. I wish that Avery didn't have to be involved, but like, wow. Graves is operating on a level of messiness that, like, is admirable and profound. But then Avery runs
jumps
downstairs.
in to save the day.
And Avery goes, I knew you'd do something stupid, which is very rude. Very rude. We're not in the Landry route anymore. Like, why are you even saying that? Why are you talking down to this old-ass man?
Also, coming from Avery, no room to talk.
What? That doesn't even make sense. Why would you know that Graves would do something stupid? That doesn't make any sense. Nacht is out there making fun of Graves and actually fucking says the half your age plus 7 thing. Again, I've been murdered, I think, for the 7th time.
I missed that. I must have skipped through it. They actually said that?
Yeah, Nacht actually calls Graves.
No, Graves doesn't call him Nacht to his face. He calls him Old Nick.
He does. And Nacht is like, oh, you fucker. You getting around my curse that's so airtight.
Oh my god. This is so much. So, like, again, like, if you were somehow on the fence and thinking, like, well, maybe they didn't date, Grave, like, Nacht is like, Nacht says something like, oh, you should be thankful that I didn't do this, this, and this. And Graves responds sarcastically, you'll forgive me if I don't drop to my knees in worship. And Nacht says, don't that bring back memories? So in case you were wondering if they dated, they did. And Avery's like, I don't get it.
Yeah, it is really like, what?
It's the worst. Everything is the worst. I really want to enjoy, like, from a, like, standing on the sidelines eating popcorn, like, Graves and Nacht's messy breakup, but the fact that Avery is involved in any way is, like, ruining it for me, and I'm sad.
This kills me. Like, they've got this kind of interesting dynamic between Graves and Nacht, where you don't know exactly what happens. They've just been dropping hints, and you get to this ending where it's like the secret ending, and you think that stuff's going to be revealed, and then this clown just appears and, you know, trips over his own 2 feet, starts dropping pies everywhere, and none of your questions get answered.
I mean, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I understand.
Yeah,
but there are
sorry.
elements here. There are elements here of a interesting ending that could have worked, and I don't know why they were ignored in favor of
Avery being a clown.
Yeah, just not. It wasn't needed. Like, Avery could have been an observer on this route, and it probably would have been a hell of a lot better for everybody.
Yeah, it also seems like way more appropriate for Avery to just be an observer seeing this happen. Like, but Avery doesn't feel that way. Avery tries to fight Nacht with the soda machine. Soda machine, everyone's favorite character, back.
Not for long.
But Nacht rusts the soda machine and hits Avery with the bat. So, yeah.
Also, I want to bring up, there's this line that stuck out to me. When Avery first gets involved, they, like, tackle Nacht or something, and there's this little internal thing. It's like, gee, that was really stupid. I wonder what kind of stupid thing I'm gonna do next. And it's like, You can't
Writing.
do that. If you know your character is doing something that's dumb and out of character and inconsequential, you can't just put that in the writing and then have that be, yeah, we acknowledged it. It's okay now.
Yeah, it doesn't... I don't know. And, like, Avery talking about being stupid in regards to their attraction to Graves versus, like, any other stupid thing is, like, those are separate stupid things. I don't know. But anyway, Nacht fucking hits Avery in the gut with a bat, and then Avery thinks to themselves, why isn't Graves attacking him? If we just pause for a moment and let that wash over you. Avery charges at Nacht, who goes to swing his bat again, but then Graves draws his sword cane and stabs him in the arm!
I love what Avery said here, too, about the sword cane, because they were very surprised to see it, and they said, God, I'm so glad he's a nerd. Which I thought was a very good line. Mm-hmm. And pretty much my exact same reaction, too.
But still, like, non-lethal blow, like, not, like... Nacht could have fucking killed Avery. It's like, I mean, it's obvious that Graves doesn't want to hurt Nacht, but then Nacht, like, is totally willing to like, fatally injure people.
I'm wondering if they're kind of playing up a jealous lover thing here. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, Nacht is constantly, like, making fun of Graves for, like, and, like, this whole idea of, like, oh, Avery has a crush on Graves, and...
Which, that just adds a whole new layer of creepy.
Yeah. I don't know, I feel like no matter what kind of fucked up thing, like, yeah, if I like, you go back and you're like, I'm gonna try to kill my ex, and oh, he's dating a 19-year-old, like, yeah, probably gonna increase the level of bloodlust and anger that you have toward this person.
Yeah, like two guys
Not
in their
toward
30s
the kid, though.
Fighting over a 19-year-old. That's...
Yeah. Hashtag Nacht did nothing wrong.
Yeah, Nacht did nothing wrong, 2K17. So Nacht backs off after getting stabbed in the fucking arm and disappears. Graves freaks out, naturally, is like, Avery, are you hurt? Tries to, I guess, like, see if their skin is rusted where they got hit with the bat, which means, like, pulling their shirt up to look at the skin on their stomach. And they slap him for doing that. And he says, I deserved that after he got slapped, because it almost wasn't weird, but now it's weird because you said I deserved that. So thanks. Thanks, Graves. And Avery is like, you could have gotten killed! And Graves is like, I wonder.
So I thought that was a weird line at first, but thinking about back on that now, I think that's sort of a reference to... Well, we'll just sort of say it right now. He took a blow from Nacht that will last.
And, also, I mean, yeah, and I think he's also not sure if Nacht would actually kill him, I think, also. Because he obviously cannot bring himself to, like, kill Nacht. Like, he could not do that, right? Yeah. He can barely attack back.
Yeah. Like, the most he was able to do was stab him through the arm.
Yeah. And let's be honest here. I think that Graves, which is going to come out in a little bit, but it's important to note right now that Graves knows the stakes are far lower than Avery does and everybody else does. Like, Graves knows what this person is motivated by, all the history behind this, and what's going on. Like, he may just be saying, I don't know about that because, hey, the second I agree to start being nice to this guy again, chances are he's going to remove any curse, any kind of, like, anything, any harm he's doing. He might just take that away because it's freaking magic. And that's a possibility. Which kind of paints Graves in a worse light. Because, like, I know he can't explain this, but it's also like, hey, people are, like, scared for their lives. You gotta be, like, a little more acknowledging what's going on.
Hey, Avery, maybe you could force Graves and Nacht to sit down and talk about their feelings like you did with everyone else's problem in every other route?
Like you did with Landry.
You know, It's funny, I didn't even think of that. You're absolutely, like, both of you are absolutely right. I didn't even see it in that light.
Because,
wow.
like, as, like, obviously, like, fucked up as Nacht is, and, like, he could be I mean, we don't have enough information to know if he's, like, how far, like, how justified, what percentage of his actions are justified or whatever the fuck, doesn't matter. Violence is never excusable. Like, I mean, Graves needs to apologize, I think. and that, you know, I think that, you know, then they could kind of talk it out. It seems like they have not attempted to do that, but who knows? Because Graves doesn't ever tell us if they already tried to talk it out a bunch of times or not. So the next day, Graves calls an all-hands staff meeting, and he lifts the curse himself. He says, the curse is lifted because I can't protect you anymore. And so everybody finds out that they're witches, I guess, and Reese is like, alright, let me tell y'all about witches. And Finley is like, I am here for
Finley
this!
Is so into this, I loved it.
Finley immediately wants to be like her ending where you become vigilantes, which is great.
So
vigilantes?
You know, at her final ending where you're like superheroes on top of a building.
No, he was calling out your pronunciation.
That sounds like if you made a Chili's appetizer out of vigilantes.
Delicious. How about a side of vigilantes for my app? Oh my god, for my app? That's what I don't remember. There's one of them that has a weird word for...
sampler.
Yeah, delicious.
Wait a minute.
I'll get a vigilante from the Cat's Paw.
Oh. But it is true.
If you want an adult drink, you get a Vigilanto. Or Vigilato.
You gotta take the latte in your own hands.
Oh my god. That is a good slogan for a crime-themed coffee shop that we're all opening after this.
What, Vigilates?
Vigilantes, take the latte into your own hands.
It's pretty good.
No, we don't have cups.
Nice.
They just open their palms, and we just pour it directly into them.
They put the hot coffee in your hand.
Latte into your own hand.
I apologize for this. We could have been talking about... Never mind.
There's nothing better we could have been talking about. What happens next?
Vigilantes with a real resistance.
Yeah.
We sort of glossed over, but Graves is like, you know, I've lifted the curse. I couldn't protect you guys. You know, go home. I'll pay for the day. Don't worry about it. But you might want to learn. I can't really explain anything right now. You know, Avery and Reese can probably catch you guys up, and you know they do. They talk about magic. Finley's super into it. Yeah.
And then Reese starts explaining magic to everyone, and I guess like Avery, like again, like Reese is trying to take control of the situation, so Avery is like kind of tired of Reese, and is like, okay, Reese, you handle this, and I'm gonna go upstairs and talk to Graves. And Reese is like, and
I'll bet you are.
Avery goes upstairs to Graves' apartment, and Graves is lying on the couch very dramatically, and his shirt is open, and you can see that there is rust on, like, in like a vein pattern on his chest.
No.
And
Graves.
oh no. And Graves is like, I'm gonna rust. Reese can take care of you or something. And Avery goes, I don't want to be taken care of. I want you, which doesn't even make any fucking sense based off everything that has happened.
I mean, it'd be like, I want you alive, which Avery does say later, but that's not what they...
Yeah, and they're like both about to confess to each other, but then they don't actually say it, and I thought, please just let it end. Please. But no, I was
Please
a fool.
just let me end.
Graves
To be continued in Hustle Cat 2.
Graves should not be leaning into this crush so much. Jesus Christ.
And like they never acknowledge, like they don't even bring up the age thing. Like they don't bring it up. They don't bring up the boss thing. They don't
Graves
bring up
and
the age thing. They
Avery,
never acknowledge it. It's so weird.
They should talk about it between each other. That is a thing they should have talked about at some point. But I mean, maybe they do later. I don't know.
You know.
I think you do.
Did you not finish? Should we stop the podcast
after, like, in the imaginary future after the route ends?
Were you playing PUBG instead of reading this?
Who would do such a thing? How dare they?
So Graves, like, passes out or whatever, and he's like, I'm sorry, I'm not describing this enough. He's like on the couch, and it's like a top-down view, so you can fucking see that his shirt is open, and he's like in this dramatic pose with his one hand over his head.
This is like the scene where Graves is like, "Oh, just let me die, Avery. Just take care of the cafe.
Yeah,
you got to go out there and win that baseball game for me." And it's
and he's got the hand on his head like he's got the vapors or something.
Yeah, he's like the novel, like the cover of a Bodice Ripper novel or something like that. Like, he's like, oh.
One thing I don't understand too, though, normally though when when Nacht hits you with his rest power, isn't it like pretty instant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's like it needs to be a little slower for plot reasons. So
they sort of explain this in that the Graves actually knows about magic and all that stuff. So.
They say he's resisting. He's actively resisting, which is part of the pain.
I seem to remember like 5 other fights that Graves had with Nacht, where he is pretty much rust there and then in the fight.
Well, I imagine he got, like, beat up several times, not just once, while also stabbing Nacht.
Alright, I guess.
I don't know.
Okay, so in my roleplay battle situation... No.
No, I was just thinking, like, maybe in the other ones, like, Nacht rusted his outside, but, like, in this, like, he put the rust in, like, his bloodstream or something, like, fucked up like that? I don't know.
So he got knocked up?
Please leave the podcast.
There we go. That was it.
Sorry, you're right. That's actually the episode title. My bad.
Yeah, that is the episode. There we go.
You know, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I mean, no.
We have the power.
Come on, he got knocked up. It's pretty damn good.
Alright, that's fair. He got knocked the fuck out.
So Avery steals Graves' phone.
Won't let me.
Avery steals Graves' phone. Another great, healthy relationship decision. And calls Nacht.
Oh, wait,
Avery's like,
on.
Yeah.
Don't skip the part. He's in his favorites.
That's right.
Oh my god. So, I don't, like, maybe they broke up recently. I don't know. I always got the impression this has been going on for a really long time. Like, on the order of years.
But it has to be, because the people at the cat cafe have been working there for a bit. And Graves turned them into cats to protect them from Nacht, right?
Yeah. It would be weird if this only started like 6 months ago or whatever when the first person started working there.
And also in the previous routes, like, Nacht alludes to the fact that this kind of relationship has happened before. This kind of, like, whatever's going on has happened before.
Ooh, honey,
which I don't think he'd do if, like, that was 6 months ago.
He says, if you do it again, think of me.
Yeah.
When you do it again. Yeah. Nacht did nothing wrong. So Avery calls Nacht on Graves' phone and challenges him to a battle this evening. Why?
And then goes and tells all their friends
everyone
that they
afterwards.
did that. And they're like,
Reese has the best. Reese has the best response to that, which is just a very shocked face, in all caps, with like 5,000 question marks after that, and he's just, you can't just do that?
It's so much. Reese is us.
That's true.
And like everybody agrees
it's
to
cool.
help.
We can pull together and work as a team. And Reese is just like, you've given us a death sentence. I hope you're happy.
And like Avery does not come down to the group and say like, "Hey, Graves is dying, and we need to get Nacht to fix it. Let's brainstorm for solutions." Like Avery just says like, "No, let's fight him."
Yeah, Avery hides
who's
Graves
with me,
is
and everybody
dying.
just leaves.
It's just so irresponsible.
Well, that's our Avery.
That's our Avery. And but everybody agrees to help. And this time, oh man, this was another thing that I was sad about. This time they all actually learn their magic. Like, we're in, like, maximum ending, and I was like, oh, this battle is gonna be so cool! Because everyone's gonna get to use their ultimate magic.
Oh. You didn't learn this lesson from the Haze route? Was it the Haze route?
Apparently
where it's like,
not.
No, it's
unlimited
keep
potential.
falling for it.
This time it'll be different.
I keep thinking she's not gonna pull the football. Avery Gray isn't gonna pull the football away this time. But then I'm just flat on my back. Oh my god.
Aww.
So, what does Avery do with Graves' sword cane? It's, like, not clear. Avery, like, takes Graves' sword cane and, covers it in plastic?
Yeah, covers it in plastic
rust?
because the plastic doesn't rust.
But they never bring that up again. Like, they bring it up once and then never bring it up again.
Also, it turns out to be of no consequence.
They bring it up as, it doesn't work, basically. That was it.
Yeah, because you're covering up the blade that can hurt people. Like, at that point, you might as well just make a different sword out of plastic. I don't know.
I guess the idea was that you have, like, a really tight layer, so it's, like, still sharp. Like, you could stab somebody with a piece of plastic.
It doesn't... I don't know. It would break the plastic once you cut them.
Well, that's
I don't know.
why
It's
the
a time
sword
in
is
prison,
so
and you can definitely stab a man with plastic.
So the fight happens. This was actually pretty smart. Mason and Landry.
Fight happens.
You're talking about this like it's a book report. Like, so the fight happens.
This is how I feel. This is what's in my heart. Mason and Landry try to subdue Nacht. This I actually liked. But they got those rust-proof magic gloves, and they try to punch him with the rust-proof magic gloves. And I thought that was actually pretty smart. So points to them, but they get fucking rusted. Finley and Hayes don't even get to do anything. They just, like, walk outside and get fucking rusted through the ground.
That's the most pathetic rusting ever, too. They're just like, oh, I didn't know we could hit it on the ground. Oh, no.
I mean, wait a minute. If Finley's magic is that she yells out #blocked and then summons the magic police, how would being anchored to the ground in rust impede her ability to do that?
Yeah, I didn't quite get that.
Nope.
Unless she's just
I guess
so
it's implied
shocked.
that she didn't really find
And also
her real
Hayes.
magic.
Yeah,
like
also
Hayes I could buy is like would super freak out and not end up doing anything, but Finley would probably still be like #unblocked.
Look,
unrust my feet
or
can
something.
move again.
Hashtag
The worst
follow.
is, you could literally hashtag anything. Like anything in the world. #unrusted. I know it don't make sense for a trending Twitter tag, but it works right now.
#defeat Nacht.
God. So everybody gets fucking rusted. Nacht is finally about to rust Avery when Graves runs out of the cafe and hits him with a statue.
And he turns to the camera and says, "Enough magic, everyone."
and then Graves, What did Avery said something
He said you got knocked the fuck out.
Yeah, that's what he says. Graves finally fucking uses his actual magic against Nacht and grabs him and turns him into a cat.
And I gotta be honest with you,
pretty good.
Yeah, I don't remember when Avery said that though. Like, I guess I missed it.
Yeah, I guess it was when Avery was like, why didn't you, like after the first physical confrontation, when Avery was like, maybe like, why don't you use more magic against him, or like use your magic, or
I think it comes back to that scene where Graves is dying because the rust is spreading, and Avery's like, well, can't you just turn into a cat or something and like undo the rust? And Graves is like, no, you idiot.
You fucking fool. You've learned nothing, Avery.
So
I don't love you anymore.
I like that Nacht gets defeated by being turned into a cat. I think that was actually quite good. I like
mean,
that.
Yeah, that is good.
It felt like an appropriate ending. That part, I think, was like, yeah, there you go. That's right.
So Graves picks up Nacht as a cat. What kind of cat is Nacht? He's an orange cat.
Garfield.
He's a Garfield cat? Yeah, he's just Garfield.
He's like literally got a
turns
pipe
him
in his
into
mouth.
literally Garfield.
It's great.
I love you, Graves, but not as much as I love lasagna.
That was what drove them apart.
Actively shoveling lasagna into his mouth.
I would have won this if it were Tuesday.
Or he's Heathcliff. He's just wearing his ham helmet.
And nobody understands how he won or how this happened.
And there is no real ending. It's just a garbage ape.
Like it's a couple days later, and they're all standing around, and they're like, "How did he win that?"
Some guy on Twitter, I've got this figured out. Here's my blog, my Heath Nacht blog, my Nacht Cliff blog.
Oh my god.
Oh my God.
So Graves picks up Nacht and makes a list of demands. He says, you have to undo the curse, you have to unrust all of my apprentices, and you have to leave this place! And also, a secret fourth reason. That he'll figure out, I guess. I think Nacht more explicitly says that the reason that he is upset is because Graves left him. It is implied that Graves left him, without any, very suddenly, by surprise. And
he did the thing where he just stopped calling. You know, that, teenager breakup thing?
Yeah, and, we don't know, right? We don't know if they, lived together for years and then Graves just, moved out in the middle of the night, or if they had, a 3-month relationship and then Graves just stopped calling him back, right? We have no idea.
We don't know if Graves cheated on Nacht, or if they were in some sort of, abusive relationship and Graves wanted to get away. We just don't know, and we'll never know.
That's how I interpreted it, is Graves left because Nacht is, he's got a metal bet.
He is, he is kind of a fucked up guy, Nacht, it seems like. I mean, if you're gonna take the breakup to this level where it's okay, I'm gonna curse you so you can't fucking talk about it. You'd think there might be, some kind of wizard code where it's you don't bring magic into the relationship. You know what I mean? That kind of thing or something. So I don't know if I go so far as to say abuse, but he's clearly got some fucking issues.
Oh,
there.
Let's also acknowledge the fact that as much as we're joking about Nacht, nothing wrong. Nacht has been stalking Graves' employees. Actively stalking them.
There's no amount of hurt that, as rude as Graves, or shitty as Graves might have been, we don't know, but this never excuses physical violence, doesn't excuse stalking, doesn't excuse any of this.
And you can tell he's got kind of a sadistic streak.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Graves calling him, though?
I think it was because they were in an abusive relationship.
I think the problem, it's tricky because if there is, any sort of heavy reason behind it, you can only really speculate because you don't get enough to, you know what I mean, go by.
I find it very difficult to read that into Graves' character because of Graves' relationship with Avery. It's very hard for me to feel pity or maybe he is doing, maybe he is like this because of all of the tropes that are put into this storyline of him sort of grooming Avery.
Yeah, I think I agree. It's just because if there is a replication of abusive behavior, but that's not what Graves is doing. Graves is doing the kind of thing where you don't acknowledge the fact that you're trying to seduce someone while you're actively doing everything to do it.
And it's there's a lot of these, there's two different things mushed together here, and I think in the Graves route, the way that the romance is written is if the way the romance is written was changed, I think it would radically change how the whole story was interpreted. If just those sort of tropes, offering Avery wine, and that just that whole thing, if that was handled differently.
I certainly don't think that any of that was intentional.
No, it feels I looked up all the story beats that you need to hit for this sort of taboo dating someone with power over you relationship.
Right. The end. No moral.
Yeah. Nobody learns anything.
So, and then also, it is implied that the fourth condition for Nacht to turn back into a person from being a cat is that he needs to get over Graves.
I mean, they don't specifically say anything about it, but it seems like that's it. Like, you have to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like you need to leave me alone. Like I'm taking.
I think it was. So I interpreted that to this slightly differently, and to the extent that it was all get over all this. But so did we say what the actual wording was? I think it was just like find yourself or something like that.
Yeah, it was very vague.
Yeah, you must find this out for yourself.
Oh, I thought it was literally find yourself. It's a little bit different than find out for yourself. Because if it was find yourself, I would hope that it's like become enough of an individual that you don't have to frantically chase down teenagers and their grandpa.
Yeah, I think there was an implication of like you need to grow the fuck up.
I'm just thinking back to the other plot points now that we know that this is the case, where in the other routes, Graves gets completely rusted. And if that's the case, is that like Nacht when he like accidentally killed him? Or is he just gonna like reclaim the cafe and then like unrust Graves to be just like there in the cafe? Or what's going on?
I don't think Nacht planned that far ahead.
I don't think the writers did, if you want my honest opinion. Not to be a jerk, but it kind of seems like in the other routes, we need to give you some tension so the Rust guy can kill you. And then in the last route, it's kind of... And then we undo it for a happy ending. But then in the last route, it's like, I need this sort of slow burn Rust thing to happen. And I don't know. It's... I don't know. I kind of like... I think we sort of touched on it. This really did feel like a bit tacked on, you know? So I feel like some of the Nacht stuff's inconsistent here. And I don't like it, sir.
Like, before this point, Nacht's whole thing was he wants the cafe. Because he says, that's mine. That's my cafe. Graves took it from me. So, is this just like a magical divorce where they broke up and Graves got the cafe and Nacht wants it?
Yeah, the cafe's community property.
It's... But... I don't get it. Magic's a scourge. I mean, you win, Landry. You were right all along. Landry was right, hashtag.
The best route of all.
I don't know. Maybe there's just nothing to look into here. Maybe it was really just tacked on and there's really not that much to peel back.
It's just like, yeah, I don't know. I was really... So, for this route, I guess I was expecting a lot more in terms of, like... Because at first I didn't think it was a romance plot before like we ever got to this threat, or you know, and then somewhere along the line.
Let's just give, because there's one last.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Which is how it does end.
Okay.
Which is everybody celebrates because they're alive, which is good.
And Reese immediately goes for the hugging of Graves. Mm-hmm. First person to hug Graves. So I'm just saying, justifies my theory from before.
And Graves and Avery are talking, and Graves is like, that was a stupid thing to do, but I like that about you. And then Avery kisses him, and then they just make out, and that's the end of the game. Good night, everyone.
Like, the line is, it's like the, you know, loose cannon cop where Graves is saying, oh, you're brash and you're foolhardy, and you're all these other things, and then the second line is, and that's what I like
and
about you.
And you're my hero.
It's so weird. There's just so much of this that's like all over the place, and that's why it's like we can't really put our finger on exactly what Nacht and Graves' relationship is, because we can't really put our finger on what's going like Graves and Avery's relationship. Like all of it, there's so many things about this that are so all over the place, and not in a way that feels like it is intentional.
Yay, Hustle Cat!
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
To me, it just felt like they had the hot boss thing, and they knew that at some point that was going to be, you know, a way that people interacted with it. Of like, ooh, but I eventually want to see if I can get the hot boss. And then...
Yeah.
And then they didn't have any way of pulling it off satisfactorily, and in no way fitting with the rest of the game. Like, it just, none of this felt like it fit.
And then they kiss, and the game ends, almost as if, like, saying, like, this isn't gonna work out. This is
They specifically say it. They say it straight out. Like, she's like...
Do they?
Yeah, well, Avery says that, like, they kiss, and I don't know what's gonna happen after this, but I just know, like, you know, this is good for now. Like, there is just...
Yikes.
And, like, because, like...
Yikes.
We were discussing this a little bit in chat before, and, like, I think, Bully, you brought up that, like, she knows it's not going to work out. This isn't even a debate. Or, like, Avery knows that there's no way that this is going to work, but oh well.
Like, I hated this. I saw that, and then the game ended, and I'm like, it just ends like that? Like, nobody learns anything. Nacht is, like... I think it's a loose end, because even if you were a cat, you could still come back and fuck up some shit. Like... He could claw Avery's eyes out while they're sleeping.
You get some,
or, like, sabotage, just, like, bite the, like, brake lines out of a car or something.
I don't know if there was any significant character growth. Like, I mean, like for Graves, like, Graves could have signaled that more, like, through his dialogue or the way that he talked about Nacht, even though he couldn't say his name. That he, like, was trying to overcome something with regards to Nacht, but we don't really know, so that doesn't feel like there was a lot of character growth there. It just, like, Graves putting his foot down just felt like this is what he's been doing this whole time. He, you know...
Are we really just gonna gloss over the cat biting through the brake line thing? That can't happen. Sorry, anyway.
Okay,
I
sorry,
thought that was brilliant.
Rusting through the brake lines.
No, that's great. No, maybe cats can bite through brake lines. I don't know.
No, what? Get out of here!
No, there's so many cats that get in trouble because they get into, like, the hood of a car and they get trapped in there. Like, don't
what? Encourage cats to sabotage cars?
To any cats that might be watching, please don't do anything to cars. It's dangerous.
A word of caution.
Even if you think you're justified in getting revenge on your ex-lover.
It's not worth it.
Don't do it. Even
if you're a magic cat.
Try it at home.
Nacht comes back and kicks Avery off the table.
I'll just tell you.
Nacht's character growth is like kick the can down the road. Like, we're not really clear if he has any character. Like, nobody who had character growth in this. I didn't see. Just like Landry's route, it feels weird because there wasn't, like, a character arc.
This could have been awesome, because we could have gone through this whole route with Avery and Graves having this, like, romance thing. And then at the end, it could have been about Nacht and Graves, where Nacht is like, well, why did you leave? And Graves could give reasons, and Nacht could be like, well,
yeah,
I didn't know. Or maybe, like, well, I was right in doing that. Like, there could have been so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And
like, when he's a cat and has no choice but to talk to the person instead of just, like, threatening them with bats, you know.
And rust.
Yep.
And the bigger issue is, like, Nacht never has a real motivation for what he's doing. Like, we never get a real... Like, because the background is never explained, we never get a reasonable explanation for why this guy is so stalkery, other than you have to assume he's got some major issues and he's just, you know, going after someone he used to date for, you know, because maybe he's... I don't know. Like, you don't know. You just don't know.
No,
so
either one of them could have done something really horrible to the other one, and like the behavior would still have turned out the way it would. Like, they could have been horrible to each other, or it could have been one way. We don't know.
That's what I'm gonna say. Like, obviously, Nacht has problems, like, as far as being really aggressive and sadistic, but you don't know. Graves could have his own problems. Like could just be both terrible for each other.
Here come the Nacht apologists, I guess. Sorry.
No.
I don't know. I think the lack of explanation sort of leads you to wonder, like, what could someone have done that would push someone to behave this way? Right? Because it's like why is he, like, you know, because we don't get enough explanation to know if he was always like this, or if he was like this because of what Graves did to him. And I think that is a serious loophole that adds a lot of ambiguity that's to the detriment of the story.
So another thing, just completely separate from the Graves Nacht thing, that I did forget to mention was while each individual person was going to fight against Nacht, Reese used his drawing magic and not his void magic, which, makes sense considering we didn't teach him to do that, but it was a little sad.
In this timeline, he doesn't discover his magic.
Yeah.
You're right, I forgot about that. I wanted to bring up that point, you're right.
But it also makes sense because he's just being a bossy little rude boy to everyone the whole time.
Yeah, there's nobody to help him walk through, like, the whole
he
process.
He didn't grow up.
Like, yeah, you need to, like, have some kind of self-realization. Poor Reese.
Wait a minute.
Like, who's the big loser here? Goddamn, poor Reese.
In the Graves timeline, everyone is worse off. Reese doesn't learn his magic.
Yeah, nobody has a significant character change.
Yeah, Hayes doesn't learn to talk to people. Mason is still
doesn't reconnect with her grandpa
as a cat. Landry still thinks he's gonna die. Like, everybody is completely screwed if we choose Graves.
Not Graves.
Oh, well, literally, the only person who benefits is Graves, who gets to make out with a 19-year-old. It's the only person.
Yeah. No, totally. Great. This all worked out great for Graves.
What the fuck? Holy shit, I'm even more pissed off now.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Goddamn worst ending.
Even Avery is worse off in this timeline.
Avery's about to have their heart
entirely
broken.
worse off than any other timeline.
And Nacht is worse off. Literally every single other character is worse off in this timeline.
Well, yeah.
He's cursed to be a Garfield. I mean, that's...
Oh, cursed?
Alright, I am glad at least that someone considers being Garfield not such a bad deal.
Yeah.
Dude,
I mean, if your only bad day is Mondays, I mean, that's pretty good. Like 6 out of 7 days?
Everybody loves you, and you don't even have to be that funny.
Garfield is not strong enough of a punishment for Nacht. I mean, I can see that argument.
Like, every once in a while, Lasagna Cat makes fun of you, but that's about it.
Have you ever considered why is Garfield upset on Mondays? I mean, it's not like he has a job.
He has a very important job, and I would appreciate it if you don't make fun of him.
Yeah, mailing Nermal to Abu Dhabi is a full-time job. Yes, I agree.
Whoa,
Nermal?
The Garfield reference.
This is
fucking Odie. God damn it!
No, fuck Odie. We went the extra degree to Nermal. Who the fuck remembers Nermal except me and Poloco?
We all do. Come on.
We all remember Nermal.
We all know everything about Garfield. Come on.
Let's not pretend.
Remember Garfield and Friends, the TV?
Of course.
Anyway, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Let's
that was a
derailed.
Weird, our feelings are weird about the Graves route. We have established this a lot. Let's talk about the game as a whole.
Yeah,
Okay,
final thoughts.
That makes sense.
Okay.
I like the game as a whole. I really do. Even though
Same.
I hate this route, and I wasn't impressed with Landry, and I wasn't really all that impressed with Hayes, I still like this game.
Same. I will admit something to all of you. When we decided on Hustle Cat at the start of this, I'm like, this is gonna suck. Internally. I really do try to keep like a positive kind of frame of mind, but my initial thought going into this is like, I'm not really into Hustle Cat. That said, it did turn me around. I really did like most of it, as much as I complained about it and stuff. I thought it was interesting, it was fun to speculate, and it was sort of the classic kind of, I guess dating sim-ish experience, even though it's not a dating sim per se.
I mean, you started using shipping names, which is like one of my like goals for this entire podcast.
Yeah, we skipped a few levels for beef.
Yeah, you went right to shipping names and OTPs, and gosh, it's just, I'm so proud, is what I'm saying.
I feel like we really made a difference.
I look forward to hearing about your fan-on.
We ended really poorly because the Landry route kind of sucks, and the Graves thing is kind of.
I mean, the Graves route, if you consider this to be like the
kinda
bad end, I think that's like a good way to see it. Like,
I think it just.
Traditionally, this would be the true ending.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think it's intended for that, but I think it's just one of those things that like I don't think they meant the meant it to have the undertones that, or whatever.
I said this last time, we kind of played up a little bit, but I really don't think any dark undertones that we kind of explored were really put there intentionally. I think there were just some instances of kind of sloppy writing.
But to be clear, to be clear, I'm not saying they're not there. I'm just saying they weren't intended.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And I kind of missed it because I was, like, speeding through it to see how long it was. But, like, yeah, it is really fucked up, all the stuff. It's just, I think it was kind of like, I think, D-Bag, you mentioned earlier, it's kind of like it's supposed to be that romance novel trope or the whatever trope of dating the older
Yeah, the
person,
failures of the romance stories, this Graves and Landry, I think, come from sort of sticking to sort of a very by-the-books, like, reflections of other media approach, and the problem with them being, reflections of other media and, like, the larger culture is that a lot of those attitudes are bad, and so then you end up having bad things happen because it's like, oh, that's what happens, right? And it's like, actually, this would be bad if it really happened, and so, you have to navigate that a little more thoughtfully.
If you notice, my favorite route was the Mason route, and I think that one actually sort of inverts a trope in a way in which that, like, typically you see in these things when you meddle in someone's life like that without their consent or without their knowledge of it, it usually blows up in your face and it becomes sort of the downward turn. But here it, like, kind of surprises you and it works out okay,
Yeah,
which is maybe not a great lesson, but
I liked though that it wasn't like all one way or all the other way. It wasn't Avery was totally justified and always right and like made the right decision for Mason. Like it was very balanced. Like it was not a great decision for Avery to do that, and it's also not a great decision for Mason to not be more open-minded, right? Yeah, I think that I like this game, and I think I would recommend it to someone and just tell them that like, don't play the Graves and Landry routes, but all the other ones are good.
Don't feel the need to 100% it, frankly. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, Graves, Landry, like, if you want to avoid those. But, like, in general, too, like, the Finley route's not... It is what it is. It's not very satisfying or whatever. But I really like the Reese route. I really like the Mason route.
The Finley route is not so offensive that I wouldn't absolutely trick any of my friends into getting to hashtag blocked.
Okay, fair. That's a good point, actually. I liked it very much.
Yeah, and I think I enjoyed the game overall. I think it's definitely worth a while, especially if these are the kind of elements that you like in fiction. You're gonna enjoy a lot. Like they have a really good way of communicating a likability and sort of like what they're doing overall. But like, let's be honest here. The sour taste we all have in our mouths, or not all, but some of us. I think Turbo isn't quite so sour.
Well, I have a sour taste in my mouth, but that's because I'm drinking a sour beer right now. But
for God's sake!
So just in general, for the rest of us who have actual sour, or metaphorical sour taste in our mouths, it may be because of you, our listeners, or
because of you,
people
it's your
who are
fault.
Watchers, because you chose Landry into Graves, and it's your fault, and it's not our fault, it's yours.
So
great job, folks.
Please like and subscribe.
I would almost say, a little bit differently, from the perspective of, we're doing this for a podcast, and we want to make, like, God, how long have we been recording now? We want to make over an hour's worth of content, so you read into it a little bit more. At least I do, personally. And I think that, that when you go into that with a little bit of a different view, you might see a little bit more of the worst side of things. Obviously, yes, like, Graves and I wasn't particularly fond of Graves' route. I definitely don't think it was the best one. So, I guess for my feelings of this, I was actually pretty nervous going into this because this was the one I suggested. And it was a pretty stereotypical, at least, sort of like what slowbeef said, dating sim-ish.
Yeah.
I also expected it to be a lot fewer episodes. We ended up probably being about double the amount of episodes that I thought. But I was nervous about it because I'd played the Landry route and the Finley route a while back, and so I wasn't sure about the rest of the things, and so the Graves route, I'm still sort of mulling it over, I guess, because I just finished it, was it 4 hours ago or something like that. I guess it puts into perspective when Paul, I think you said that no one is happy in this route. None of the...
Yeah, like, literally the only person that gets out in this route better than they were before is Graves.
And that was sort of the thing, like, when we're going into battle, and I even mentioned this before, with Reese, he's not using his void magic, he's using his sort of dead-end magic that he doesn't actually like. And that's sort of a sad thing, because normally in, like, those sort of true ending routes, everyone sort of gets every happy ending there is. It's almost a bit tropey in that respect, but it was a bit disappointing that, all of they didn't have at least some other resolution to go along with their story. And Avery did feel more like a watching, a side character,
an observer.
I guess.
Yeah,
observer,
instead of an active participant.
I will say one of the failings that I had sort of with this game, and maybe not of this game, but for playing it for the Visual Novel Book Club, I wanted, if we were going to do sort of a dating sim-like game, one where, you obviously get to date a variety of different people, but I wanted, like, all of us to be able to feel like we could be in the character's shoes, and they pretty clearly devised Avery as their own character. It wasn't something where, my 27-year-old ass could pretend to be some teen living in, wherever San Francisco this is.
Yeah, and I struggle with that too, though, as someone who enjoys visual novels. Like, sometimes I feel like I'm just too old for it. Like, like every visual novel protagonist is 18, 19 years old, and, like, it's our fault that we're too old to relate to that. I don't know.
I get it, because, like, you get sort of that, fantasy, and everyone can remember when they were younger, but it gets a little tougher.
There's certain ages that get romanticized, so, like, it's a sort of a topic if you look at, like, why do a lot of Japanese games take place in high school, and it's because in that culture, once you've graduated high school, your life is kind of set now. Like, what job you're going to go into, probably what business you're going to go into, and things like that. So a lot of the Japanese romanticize high school because it's, like, the last time in your life that you felt kind of free, and the world was still open. And over here in the West, it's like, that's a little more, I think, like the 18-ish kind of range, because now you're out of high school, and now you're out in the world and you're an adult, or you're going to college where you're thrust with, like, a bunch of other homesick people who are, now in this, like, living together kind of space. You know what I mean? Like, so it's sort of like this weird kind of thing where, I don't know, Avery's age is just weird in this because, like, they're with peers, more or less, except Landry and obviously Graves, So I guess it's, like, just sort of that romanticized, like, hey, the world's your oyster, it's still pretty uncertain out there, what are you gonna do for a job, but at least you can get, like, a part-time job at a cat cafe and worry about, like, extra money because you're living with your aunt until you get on your feet, and it's not quite, like, crushing weight of the world, like, oh my god, how am I gonna, make rent and pay off this lease and blah, 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 stuff. I guess what I'm saying is my life is crushing and terrible, and I wish I were young as some of you mid-20ers, so don't fucking complain to me. No, I'm joking. But,
Phil...
I don't even know if what I said was actually relevant.
No, it was relevant. And
I guess it's like, do you feel like you're too old to relate to a 19-year-old?
No, because, yeah, definitely. No.
I mean, can identify.
Why are their high school years happy?
Like, the original question was, why did these ages get romanticized? And, yeah, like you said, a lot of that stuff is You're
freedoms.
in situations where you have some new responsibilities and new things happen in your life, but you haven't been hit with everything yet. But also, you're at that age where I guess you're on the cusp of like becoming who you're gonna be for the most part of your life, and you're still kind of you're figuring things out romantically, you're figuring things out socially, and you're making your friendships.
It is also sort of one of those ages where, like, if you fuck up a little bit, you're not doomed for the rest of your life. Not to say if you're listening to this in your mid-20s, you're doomed for the rest of your life if you made a mistake last week or anything like that. But
if you're listening to this and you're in your early 20s, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah,
truthfully,
I mean, like,
also...
Go ahead.
No, good. I mean, it loops around again. Because, like, then once you're in your mid-30s, it's like, you know, you don't feel that, like, crushing sort of, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be 30, and I don't know what my life's going to, blah, blah, blah. And then, because then it's like, you sort of realize, like, it's no big deal. You know?
Yeah, I hear a lot of people have it, like, at the 30 is like, oh man, I'm old now. And then, like, a year later, like, fuck it, I don't care.
Yeah, it's kind of like...
That sounds so great. I can't wait.
I mean... For me, get old. It's great. No, for me, it's like, if you ask the question, like, are you too old for visual novels? It depends on what you want to get out of them. I'm not reading this as any sort of, like, wish fulfillment, as, like, I wish I could be Avery. I wish I could date Reese or Finley or whomever. But in the same way that, like, when I was young and I'd watch, like, a James Bond movie, I'm like, I want to be that guy. I want to, you know, but now I watch it because, like, I'll enjoy a good action movie or something. And it's not the same, but I appreciate it differently, and I can kind of look back on it now through a new lens, you know?
Yeah.
And actually, I haven't seen a James Bond movie since Casino Royale, so I don't know why I reached for that one, but whatever.
Skyfall's really good. Watch it.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see Spectre. Anyway.
Yeah. I guess I sometimes feel like it's like the game is like, well, this is only supposed to be for, like, wish fulfillment and your fantasy, and if you can't project yourself into this person, then you're not enjoying it the right way.
And I'm sure there's probably listeners and people who've played Hustlecat who've done the Graves route and are just like, I think you're thinking way too much about this, and it's just fun, and it's not a big deal. And it's fine to have that perspective, but once you...
But we're doing a fucking podcast here.
But even if we weren't, I mean, you're gonna have that lens, you know. It's not even to do with age, but you'll have new experiences in your life, and you'll look back on anything that you looked at through differently, you know.
Yeah, and it's time and focus too. I mean, obviously, we're gonna be a little bit more analytical because we're spending the time on this, like we're taking notes.
Yeah,
and like the more you focus on it, if it doesn't hold up, it doesn't hold up. Like that's just a thing. Like, and I think that it may be easy to dismiss some narrative jumps and some questionable choices if you're just kind of rushing through it, but if you slow down and it doesn't hold up, that's a problem with the way it's written. It's a problem with the way that's constructed.
Mm-hmm. That
and it doesn't mean obviously we all enjoyed the game a lot, and we enjoyed a lot of parts of the game. So it's all part of it. And Lord knows if you're gonna get into visual novels, like, this is not the first time, this is not the last time that this is gonna happen to you.
And all that being said, there's like there's no wrong way to enjoy this. If you enjoy this as just like kind of a fluff, cute little dating game that you would play maybe for a couple days and then sit down, you know, not really reflect on it at all, that's fine.
It's a cat cafe game. It doesn't have to be deep if you don't want it to be deep. It's a lot of player choice.
And I think DVAC even hit on a point there. If you're looking for, like, visual novels to play, this is a pretty damn good one to do that, because, like, the well is pretty deep in terms of that category, and
in terms of fucked up shit you can just stumble into without realizing it's gonna happen.
We've had a couple, like, we even talked about this maybe off the air, but we've had some recommendations for things that we are just never going to play because it's a little bit fucked up.
Like, with visual novels especially, it's hard to get people into them unless you know that there's nothing... Like, because they'll be marketed strangely. They'll be marketed, especially the ones that come from Japan, they've got these really, like, cute, colorful exteriors, or, like, all the characters, it's a romance, it's a comedy, but then you'll read into them, and you'll just be hit with, like, these really fucked up, abusive things, and I don't know why. I don't know why that's the case.
sometimes, I mean, one thing I've heard is that there are a lot of like really good, just straight story Japanese visual novels, but over there, like back then when they wanted to sell this on like the PC-98 and all like those kinds of computers, they would just insert sex and stuff into it just so they would sell copies because they were worried about it just selling on its own merits. So you'd get things like, and
they ended up being the Playboy articles.
So, or like, was that one Fate Night where I think they ultimately like removed? That's it, yeah. Where I think they did that, and there's like a couple where it's like I remember from modding LP, people were like, "This is a great story. I have to cut out the sex scenes," and I was like, "Come the fuck on! You're just trying to like sneak a porn game through." And then like I had a couple people who were like, "No, it's really not like that. Like if you cut that out, you can actually censor it yourself in a Let's Play and say, I'm just gonna skip past this, and you lose literally nothing." The end, no moral.
But it's still a tremendous amount of emotional labor to navigate that as just like as a person who wants to read like romance stories.
Fair. And for a podcast, it's hard to choose things because unless some person has full knowledge of the game, you can't go in with everybody fresh.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I told that one story, right, about the Pathos game, about your little sisters dying of a disease, and like 90% into the game, like, whoops, sex scene, and it's like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? Like, that was awful, game. How dare you?
And how do you, how do you navigate also, like, I like Hustle Cat. If somebody asked me, oh, should I play it? I would ask them very specific questions about what they were comfortable with before letting them play the game. And be like, hey, maybe don't do this thing. And there are a lot of other games that I would be even stronger with. And it's like, how do you navigate recommending media where some parts of it are deeply problematic and those parts that like could be so cleanly removed from the game, right? That's another weird thing about it. It's not like it's not always woven into the fabric of the story. It's like this one part, if you could just cut that out and move it and put it away.
If you want to be honest too, I think that's not even just a problem with visual novels sometimes, because even like with video games and stuff.
Oh yeah, it's a problem with all media for sure.
Yeah. And there's even like, I mean, I guess err on the side of caution always, but like I've even had situations where I'm like, hey, this scene's really fucked up, you want to be careful. And then the person will be like, no, it wasn't, it was fine. And it's like, all right, well, but fuck it. I mean, who cares? Do it anyway. I mean, like, it's not like we don't speak anymore. Like, how dare you warn me about something that turned out to be not as bad as you thought?
So we're doing I Have No Mouth next?
How did you know? Yes. So anyway,
Gorster's my boy.
But yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. It's a difficult landscape to navigate. Just being somebody who wants to play visual novels, and certainly being able to recommend them and talk about them. It's obviously very different to play a visual novel when you are in private by yourself versus when you are taking notes and very much in public and feel like you're in public every second you're playing the game. It's a totally different thing.
It's also different when you're not really paying attention, just thinking of witty titles the whole time. For the podcast.
But I don't know, a lot of times when I am playing games by myself, I am just the type of person who will always do this. So putting it on a podcast just means I have a reason to.
I'm very glad to be your overanalyzation enabler. Whatever. Podcast.
You're good there, bud.
Whatever. All right. Is that a wrap then?
I think so.
We want to save our announcement for the game we're playing next.
I don't know what to do about that. Do we want to have another little mini thing, or I mean,
were we completely settled? I know we were still even talking about. We had several ideas floating around, actually.
Do we want to do a separate recording for talking about the next game we're going to play?
Maybe. Good evening. I am hijacking the final episode of Season 3 of Visual Novel Book Club to let you know Season 4 is starting pretty much immediately afterwards. We're picking Danganronpa V3, Killing Harmony. I had a bit of a coup there, and that's the one that's going to happen next. We want something a little different, a little newer. It's available on Steam as of today, September 26th. To that end, we'll see you soon. Please, if you'd like to follow along, please read up to... I'm going to be guessing here. Please read up to finding out the rules of the game in the school. By then, you should have met all 16 characters, and I believe the series' very famous villain, who a couple of us actually, I don't think, know who that is. So, alright, see you soon after graduation.